Hey guys, Jackdaw here. Today I'm delving into full spoiler territory regarding the final issue of Blue Wraith. Like all good things, they must come to an end. And today I'm breaking down the major plot threads, characters, and my overall thoughts on the final issue of this epic comic. I've already broken down the previous issues, so be sure to check those two videos out if you do need to be caught up. But if you haven't had the chance to pick up this comic and you want to read the third issue for yourself, go and give it a read and revisit this video later on. Alternatively, if you would rather pass up on the comics for whatever reason, as I've said in my previous issues, you're in luck because I'm going to be summarizing all of the important details in this video. So without further ado, let's break down the final issue of Blue Wraith. Like both previous issues, we start with a flashback. This time, we witness the very moment Leto became the Fenris we know today with his lyrium tattoos. As one of Daenerys' remaining slaves, Fenris is commanded to go into the lyrium sarcophagus with the compromise that his family will be freed. Something worth noting is that the sarcophagus requires a sword and plenty of lyrium to work. Now we know for certain we will be seeing this being used in the future with red lyrium. However, as a tinfoil, we may potentially see this sarcophagus being used with the red lyrium idol, as, spoiler for Tevinter Nights, we discovered the red lyrium idol has its own ritual blade too. So this red lyrium idol could serve both purposes of fueling this device. We skip to the present day, back in the Alafan forest, picking up from the last issue. Fenris, Vaya, Autumn and Francesca are slaughtering their way through the Qunari forces when one of the Qunari killed Magister Nenilius' slaves, who had plenty of information of the Magister's whereabouts. Fenris goes slashy slash with his greatsword. Francesca uses her plant-based magic, while Vaya kind of just watches the mayhem unfold. Meanwhile, the Qunari Vidasala escapes the scene. Vaya slightly touches Fenris on the back to comfort him, and immediately he turns to show her his rage, as she apologizes. Following that, we shuffle to Sir Aaron, Calix, Marius and Tessa. Since the last issue, they had a lyrium-infused man explode whilst charging at them, so it's good to see that they're alright. Marius calls it a failed experiment, and we can speculate this failure even further since the device was supposed to be used by elves, not humans. And so, as evident as it is, human blue wraiths seem to explode. The group discusses chasing after the Tevinter caravan, the very same envoy they've been following since issue 1, carrying this sarcophagus on its way to Castellum Tenebris, where another lyrium device potentially awaits them. As a quick recap for the group's mission objective, because we can kind of forget, or at least I forget, what they're doing chasing after this caravan. In the previous comic, Dragon Age Deception, Sir Aaron and company discovered that the red lyrium imbued weapon they're looking for on behalf of the Inquisition was supposed to be at House Kantara's estate in Ventus. However, an agent of Fen Harel impersonating the head of House Kantara sold this device to House Daenerys at Castellum Tenebris. This was in exchange for information. It must have been information to die for because that agent was later killed in the Qunari invasion that took over the city, while the rest of the group escaped with an updated mission objective to get this weapon from Castellum Tenebris. So it's basically just been a wild goose chase of following on and trying to retrieve this mysterious red lyrium weapon, whatever it may be, for the Inquisition. Now they can't ride on because Cass, Sir Aaron's horse, is severely hurt and he can't ride too well. Sir Aaron suggests that they need the help of Francesca and her magic. The group becomes impatient and they decide to move on at a slower pace for Cass's sake. Shuffling back to Fenris, he apologizes for reacting to Vaya's touch, saying that she bears no blame for not knowing his mark can cause pain when touched. He admits his angry reaction was influenced by losing the Vidasala, since the group have no more leads to go on. They free the rest of Magister Nenilius' slaves, and a little boy tells Fenris about a caravan heading to Castellum Tenebris. Fenris asks Autumn to track the Vidasala and if Vaya and Francesca will join the two of them. Meanwhile, Sir Aaron and company are back on the road catching up to the caravan. Sir Aaron speaks with Calix on Cass's origin. He used to belong to Grand Duke Gaspard, and he called her Cass as if to say he was a broken thing. Before Gaspard could put Cass down, Sir Aaron stepped in and took the horse from him. He's been with him ever since. While it was all peaceful, in a sudden hurry, a barrage of Qunari charged towards the group on horseback, the Vidasala and the rest of her forces that escaped Fenris's blade. They too are after the Tevinter caravan, seeking the lyrium sarcophagus. Magister Nenilius' caravan pulls up to a cliffside as they witness witness both the Cunari and Sir Aaron's company mounted on horseback. Magister Nenelius gathers his men and promises that for their sacrifices today, each Soparati who has magical capabilities will be elevated into a Laton, a social level that is much more respected across the Imperium. Shiralis, Fenris's old elven companion, is seen on horseback working as Nenelius's new mage killer. However, he has not yet acquired his new lyrium tattoos through the sarcophagus like the other men. Instead, Magister Nenelius has a worse scheme for this elf. He intends on putting Shiralis willingly through the same sarcophagus process, however using red lyrium instead, creating a never before seen red lyrium tattooed elven warrior, a worthy opponent against Fenris. Thus explains why Francesca's father was needed for this experiment, to offer his red lyrium expertise. He displays a speech to the men that their sacrifice will restore the Venatori, House Denarius and House Nenelius. As Sir Aaron and company are fighting the invading Cunari, Fenris, Veya, Francesca and Autumn arrive at excellent timing. Autumn gets a bloody kill as the entire group charges ahead towards the caravan. The lyrium infused men reveal themselves. We have a stunning panel showcasing 3 major events. We can see the caravan fleeting as Francesca, using magic, grapples her father with a vine, yeeting him off the caravan and to the ground. Fenris encounters Shiralis as he says he's almost got the power he seeks, a power that only elves can handle, and with that, a lyrium infused man charges at Fenris and explodes. As the Cunari add to the mixture of fighting, Calix admits that he would rather take cover than fight. Veya and Sir Aaron tag team the battle once more together again. The Cunari forces are surrounded by a group of lyrium infused men, exploding their existence to smithereens. The explosion leaves the forest desolate of life. Francesca finally gets the moment she was looking for throughout this entire comic, a confrontation with her father. She exclaims that she has saved him. He picks himself up and smacks Franny across her face with the staff, calling her a worthless child, shouting, "Do you know what this cost me?" This was his chance to restore the Venatori and the Invidus house to reclaim their greatness. He asks, where is Francesca's brother, as she lies on the ground. Veya steps in and tells them that his son is dead and that his daughter was only trying to save the family she had left. Magister Invidus attacks Veya, calling her a knife ear. He looks at Francesca and said the wrong child died. Fenris steps in to protect Francesca, holding his sword to his head, saying that he will break the promise he made to Francesca if he hurts anyone else again. Magister Invidus turns around and says only my daughter would cut a deal with the Blue Wraith, as he attacks Fenris with his magic and, from what we can assume, a red lyrium staff. He summons a most powerful spell. Francesca yells for him to stop. She stands up and stabs her father in the heart with a vine spell. Instant death for Magister Invidus. Fenris tells her she had no choice, while Veya pushes him aside and weeps with Francesca. This panel truly is heart-wrenching and just stunning, showing the relationship growth of both characters. Calix talks to Sir Aaron about not being built for any of this. He gives Francesca her gemstone back. He previously swindled the stone from her in Dragon Age Deception. I feel this exchange shows the growth of both Francesca and Calix, but mainly Francesca, since the previous comic and throughout all of Blue Wraith. She's no longer that naive young lady she used to be. She's found her voice, made valuable friends, and grown into the next heir of her house. And she's also just killed her dad, so she's kind of a badass now. Francesca gives the gemstone back to Calix as he decides it's time for him to leave the group. She tells him to take this stone to Fort Viridan. He will be granted safe access there. As everyone wishes Calix goodbye, we have the saddest of farewells. Autumn has a most dire choice to make. Does she go with Calix or does she stay with Veya and the rest? After a tearjerker of a scene, Autumn stays with Veya and the squad. Calix throws in a cheeky Princess Bride reference and Fenris joins the group even with his track record. He urges everyone that they've got to get to the sarcophagus before Shiralis uses it, while Veya introduces him properly. Francesca heals Cass and they all set out on the road to Castilium Tenebris, while Sir Aaron makes a comment about an adventure he had in the Dales travelling with elves who had dreams of restarting the Emerald Knights. As Sir Aaron tells his tale, this issue comes to an end. Of course, ending on a cliffhanger with the notion that there's more story to tell. He's hoping we'll one day hear Sir Aaron finish this tale, but of course we have Magister Nenelius dealing with Shiralis, the red lyrium weapon, and Castilium Tenebris' secrets. There are many things that need to be revealed going forward, so of course that demands another comic run. All in all though, Blue Wraith has been perfect for me. As someone who grew pretty distant with Fenris in Dragon Age 2, it's great to see him 10 years later with huge depth to his character. This comic has genuinely fleshed him out so much and I respect him way more. However, my favourite dynamic throughout this entire comic run of Blue Wraith has been Francesca and Veya's friendship. Their arc I've absolutely loved seeing. These two characters who started this adventure as strangers and by the end of it bit are seen sharing emotional moments together as friends, I love it. And I've actually grown to like and respect the comic characters just as much as characters in the game, and because of that I really want to see their stories continue on. Everyone involved in Blue Wraith has done a fantastic job. I listened to a podcast with Nunzio De Philippis and his wife Christina Weir, the writers of Blue Wraith of course, and I noticed so many things I felt are worthwhile to share. First, Nunzio and Christina are truly delightful people, and they've spent time sharing how writing these Dragon Age comics has been a dream job for the two of them. You can just tell from the way they talk about the franchise, BioWare, and just the characters of Dragon Age that they love Dragon Age and are having an absolute blast creating these comics. It's been a huge drive for them, and you can really tell by how much effort they put into these comics. Second, Nunzio talks about these comics and what they're created for, and that's mainly for filling the void of Dragon Age. Things like establishing characters, locations, tones, and even clothing styles for a future game. And although they are building a future for the games with the Red Lyrium weapon plot and discovering Castilium Tenebris' secrets, Nunzio specifies that these comics aren't supposed to act as a prologue for Dragon Age 4. He says actually look at Tevinter Nights for that instead. The comics are building the Dragon Age universe further by adding more lore and elements to it. So yes, they are helping the shape of what direction Dragon Age 4 may go in, but other than that, they're just supposed to be fun in Fadis. So even though we're Dragon Age fans and we take everything way too seriously, tinfoiling and investigating into way too much, I speak for myself, try not to do that with these comics just yet. At least until we have some solid information on the next game. I will say though, we can have some hope in Veya and Sir Aaron because they have been seen in Tevinter Nights. So perhaps BioWare are recognizing them as characters they are going to work with in the future games. Or it could just be fan service. With that, I would like to point out one negative I have about both Dragon Age Deception and Blue Wraith, and that is the fact that they are too short. Mage Killer and Knight Errant were 5 issues long. With the long wait ahead we have for Dragon Age 4, having a 5-issue comic coming next with an issue popping out once a month would help the wait of the next game so much. That will be half a year of Dragon Age goodness that we could sink our teeth into monthly. Now I can totally understand why there would just be 3-issue comics. You know, there isn't a Dragon Age game just yet, there isn't a huge need for Dragon Age comics. But I just feel like it would help with the pacing and just having more story to tell. As we can tell from Deception and Blue Wraith, there's still more story to go on. So I do hope that the next comic can be 5 issues long, just so we can really get into the nitty gritty of this next comic that will be going to Castilium Tenebris. But regardless, unfortunately that's all I have to say on Blue Wraith for now. I really loved this comic, as I have with all of Nunzio and Christina's comics I've done in the past. In particular, I love how epic Blue Wraith was with the Qunari fight scenes, but on top of that, the character depth, the really touching moments with Calyx, Francesca, Veya, and of course Autumn, the best Mabari in Dragon Age right now. And with that, I eagerly look forward to the future. We know that Nunzio and Christina are teasing another comic. Of course, there are so many loose ends I need to tie up, but I know from their podcast they, just as much as us, want another comic, and they cannot say anything until BioWare give them the heads up. So just like them, we're all going to be eagerly awaiting the next comic, whenever that will be. But of course, whenever we do get that, you're already in the right place for all that sweet Dragon Age content regarding the comics, regarding the books, whatever have you. Look at my content right now. All I've been talking about is Blue Wraith and Tevinter Nights. So be sure to check out that content. But until next one, guys, I have been Jackdaw, and I should go. Whoa.